Hello and welcome to Estic Media right here on YouTube. It's ESTIQMEDIA. You definitely see it below your screen if you're watching this content. Happy New Year to you. Yes, this is the first edition right here on Estic Media, and obviously we intend to ensure that we'll continue to bring up trending issues across Nigeria's socio-political landscape, including lifestyle, health, tips, and poetry. Obviously, the art. We appreciate art as well. So follow our content, and obviously the conversation we'll be having today, I'd like you to lend your thoughts. Let's educate ourselves on some of these issues, possibly your own conspiracy theory or what you know that a couple of persons do not know. That could be the interpretation of the information that will be reeled out here. My name is Esther Wachiku, by the way, so thank you for joining me. There's a very interesting expose that came up, I think, this weekend and on Saturday precisely from the People's Gazette. So I'm going to read it out, and it's quite surprising. The presidency has reacted, but the reaction is not strong enough to actually say that the information is not true. So, former Prime Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, according to the People's Gazette, has been dragged before a court in Paris, where he took the witness stand in an arbitration proceeding over a federal power contract dispute. Now, apparently, Mr. Buhari, that is former President Muhammadu Buhari, was hauled before the court on Saturday for breaching the terms of power generation and distribution contract awarded to Sunrise Power and Transmission Company of Nigeria by former President Olusegun Obasanjo in 2003. The $6 billion project has dragged on for over 20 years, and its main anchor, Leno Adesoya, has been a target of anti-graft allegations and investigations, which also includes claims that he bribed a former minister at the time to secure the contract. Now, Mr. Buhari, according to the People's Gazette, was grilled for hours on Saturday and would continue his testimony today before the International Chamber of Commerce Court of Arbitration in Paris. A top administration disclosed that Mr. Buhari was reluctant to give testimony on the matter, but that the Attorney General, Lateef Fagbemi, visited him at his residence in Daura last week to compel his appearance. So, according to this top government official, who spoke unanimously to the People's Gazette, he said the Attorney General of the Federation made it clear to the President that he must be in Paris. And obviously, the President approved the decision to hold his predecessor before the Foreign Arbitration Panel. Now, Mr. Fagbemi and two presidential spokespersons did not immediately respond to a request for comments about the administration's decision. A spokesman for Mr. Buhari also could not be reached on Saturday evening when the People's Gazette wanted to get some confirmation based on the information they had gotten. Now, the government of Mr. Buhari was accused of withholding about $200 million in payments previously approved for the project, which was to be launched in conjunction with a Chinese consortium. Court filings show that former Attorney General Abubakar Malami communicated the decision to truncate the agreement to Mr. Adesoya and Mambila Power in April 22, 2020. However, when Mr. Adesoya protested the action against his company, Nigerian authorities sought to arrest him and charge him with bribery and economic sabotage. He denied the allegations and proceeded to arbitration. Mr. Adesoya was also forced to defend himself against EFCC's decision to declare him wanted in Nigerian courts. He was charged alongside Olu Agunloye, a former power minister under Mr. Obasanjo, also Nigeria's former president from 1999. Now, let's look at this particular information, accurately and logically as best as possible. It's obviously that it's known that any administration that comes on board will definitely have a lot of controversies surrounding it. And it's not also going to be surprising that we already see controversies surrounding President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Ever since, with the whole certificate forgery scandal, with the $460,000 money forfeiture for drug dealings and all whatnot. So there's been quite a lot, all right, surrounding the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But we know that this current governors, it It's very rare, very hard for them to prosecute their predecessors. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had actually said that this administration is a continuation of the previous one. He also ruled out to former President Muhammad Buhari that he was going to tour on his footsteps and continue on other projects that he obviously may not have been able to complete. So when this information came out, it was actually very surprising, I must tell you, because what? You were stepping on the ox's tail. Like, President Tinubu means business. Now, we already know that the northern elites are already complaining about this administration. They feel left out, they feel isolated. They've been complaining as if there are promises made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu before he won the elections that he has not lived up to. So there's been this cold, silent war, let's say, with kind of comments to be making, with their objection with President Tinubu's tax reform. Immediately it was introduced and announced at the National Assembly. They've been vehemently against it, the back and forth and all whatnot. So obviously the Northerners are coming out en masse to display their displeasure against this administration. There are talks already of measures to unseat this administration. I mean, factions are already arising to ensure that Tinubu does not stay beyond 2027. Maybe another presidential candidate, but they do not want Tinubu. Some persons want, some persons already have their own whatever settled, with this administration. But the president is brazen. Guy is not sending anybody, or God they doing thing. But when the story came out, apparently the People's Gazette actually tried to reach out to any of the spokespersons of the president and all whatnot. But nobody said anything. Nobody responded. Everywhere was quiet. But Bayo Nanuga has actually come out to respond to that particular publication, which is actually surprising because I'm going somewhere. So just wait. Now, in a swift reaction, Bayo Nanuga, who is a special advisor to the president on information and strategy, in a statement said that it was not true, but he did not deny the existence of such a case. Now, this is what also implicated Bayo Nanuga in his response. According to him, he said, and I quote, "The attention of the presidency has been drawn to some fake news on social media about an arbitration proceeding in Paris to which the Nigerian government is a party. The private proceeding, which should not have been reported in the media." Take note of that statement, of that sentence. The private proceeding, which should not have been reported in the media, is entirely confidential until the international arbitrators decide. They did not deny that this case is actually in court, but they are denying that it's fake news that Tinubu forced. So they're trying to distance themselves so that the northern oligarchs don't think there's some kind of revenge ongoing, and they don't want any form of ruffling the feathers against this administration, specifically for the Southwest. So they've distanced themselves that the president is not the one that hauled former President Muhammad Buhari, but that the case is in court and the arbitration process is confidential, which should not have come to the media. But he's emphasizing that a story that went out from the People's Gazette that Buhari was forced, they're saying he wasn't forced and that Tinubu did not force him. But they're not denying that that case is in existence. They're not denying that President Muhammadu Buhari is in Paris at this moment being grilled, and that the continuation of that grilling will continue today being Sunday, all right, January 19. So, again, he also disclosed that while respecting the confidentiality of the proceeding, we wish to state categorically that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had not forced anyone to testify for or to refrain from testifying against Nigeria. All the eminent Nigerians involved in Nigeria's defense are doing so willingly and out of sheer patriotism and conviction. President Tinubu and the entire country are grateful to them. All right, so it's interesting, isn't it? Now, this same publication, this People's Gazette, they were the ones that published a particular item on the president having to solicit a particular firm, all right, in Philadelphia, a very small firm in Philadelphia, to clean the president's name. It's not what I say strange to see that kind of happening, or to see presidents have PR agents, all right, to help them spread out positive information, clean their image and all whatnot. But this particular firm, interesting, right? Right? Remember, I said this firm, right? Okay. So you remember that the same People's Gazette released a publication which was quite controversial, where that the president hired lobbyists in the United States to help convince lawmakers and policymakers that he carries acceptable personal probity to lead Nigeria. Now, after suffering a reputational hit that followed reports of his involvement in illicit drug peddling and certificate fraud, President Tinubu engaged public relation experts, which obviously is not strange, it's not a new thing. Presidents do that, organizations do that, elite persons do that. If you have your image at stake, it's a branding procedures, obviously, right? But apparently, he engaged public relations experts, including David Spalding of Lenape Legal, based in a sleepy Philadelphia suburb. Okay, to help his administration navigate Washington's concerns about his unsavory public profile. Now, President Tinubu deemed the hirings necessary after evaluating the impact widespread coverage of his narcotics and certificate saga had on his prestige before his foreign counterparts. When this publication came out, I was expecting a Bayo Nanoga, a Daniel Bwala, a Sunday Diary to come out and dispute this report. But they did not at all. They kept mum. So this report came and, as usual, went. This same publication, this same online news platform, the People's Gazette, is also releasing another exclusive as to the fact that the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, hauled former President Muhammadu Buhari to a Paris court over a fraudulent amount of money. And Bayo Nanagar, the president's special advisor on information and strategy, quickly came out to debunk it and say it's fake news. Okay, so the question now is, what in this information is fake? You admitted in your response that indeed this particular information is meant to be confidential and not released to the media. But the only thing you tried to actually clear, all right, is that it was not the president that forced former President Muhammadu Buhari to go to that court to clear his name or respond to the grills on questionings, well, that he willingly went. So, what is fake news? What precisely is fake news here? Is it fake news that indeed former President Muhammadu Buhari is being grilled, something that what you call current administrations rarely do to the previous administration, unless it was really what you call a form of enmity between the both, and especially if it's a different political party, they go all out. The person who is actually bearing the brunt of the previous administration right now is Gordon Emefiele. He's taking the heat for all the failures, all the fraudulent activities carried on within the previous administration. We have the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. She has not responded to any questions. She's not within the DSS custody. We have Hadi Sirika. He's wherever he is, enjoying himself, but the case is in court. These were persons who brazenly stole public funds for certain projects which they couldn't account for. But Gordon Emefiele is the one specifically being hounded and actually paying for most of what transpired during the previous administration. So it's actually confounding that this administration would actually send the former president to court to respond to questions involving corruption related activities, which has to do with the Mambila power project. So what say you about this development? Because I find it quite ironical. I'm actually surprised. But how Bayo Nanga was quick to respond to this allegation from this publication. Now remember, the publication said they tried to reach them to either confirm or deny, and they did not respond. Why is it that when information comes out, specifically by investigative online news platforms or investigative journalists, for you to either confirm a particular report, you don't respond? You don't even say, okay, get back to us later. Oh, hold on your publication. Just wait. We need to get our facts right when we are speaking with you. You don't pick calls. You don't deem it necessary to respond. And when that story goes out, you now start trying to do damage control or start clearing your name. What exactly is the essence of that? How are journalists supposed to authenticate and verify certain information if you will not give them an ear or listen to them, or at least give them an opportunity to clarify what you have heard? So that when they're reporting it, they'll be like, okay, after the president was contacted or after the presidency was contacted, this was their reaction, and they gave their own evidence. But you were contacted, you did not respond. This publication has released, and you were swift in less than 24 hours to debunk that particular information. Why? What are you afraid of? Who are you afraid of? Are you afraid of the northern oligarchs? You don't want them to think that there is any witch hunting or whatever, so that they don't try to make your administration unstable? I really don't know, but if it's indeed true that Buhari right now is in Peru responding to questions based on this contract, well, it's a good thing. Public office holders who misused funds or who could not account for funds used for certain projects should be able to make account for it. They should respond to it. And if this will be the beginning, then let it continue across board, not just towards certain individuals for whatever reason. So I'd like to know what you think based on this information. I'd like to know how you react to this and what your recommendation would be. Make sure you subscribe, like, share. Have a good day.